And okay, welcome back everyone to Strange Planet Podcast. It's been an interesting couple of weeks, but I guess reaching more current news, especially within this past week, Rook has some information regarding ChatGPT and their latest release, which apparently is not happening to the public. Rook, let us know what's going on here.
Yeah, so I was excited for ChatGPT to be releasing their new model 5.6 this weekend. It's a long week. I was just waiting to test out the new model. And it turns out that, the government, the Trump White House stepped in and said, nope, public can't have it right now. And they're going to release it to a select few companies and the government. Now, I don't know who these companies are, but I'm willing to bet that they are ones with very close connections to the White House.
Probably.
And, that they have to be approved. Okay. So, coupled with the news that, Fable 5, which is Anthropic's new Claude model, being, basically banned, that is creating this system where, we get this awesome new AI technology over the past few years. Everyone's using it. And now we're creating tiers from it. So it's restructuring our economy, transforming the way we live. And now we have to deal with the fact that the very best models moving forward are going to be in the hands of very few people.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a problem because, that allows, the technocrats, the rich, already rich isn't even the word, very wealthy, like Elon Musk was briefly the world's first trillionaire.
Can we started on that?
So they are giving them a tremendous amount of power, and people that could have the ingenuity to use these things just from their home are not going to be able to do it. Now, ChatGPT or OpenAI says that they will release some form of it eventually to the public. But when that will happen, who knows? Fable 5 is still in limbo. It came out for 3 days. It was awesome. I loved using it. It was,
no kidding,
very transformative. And then they ripped it away from us 3 days later. Wow. So, I think it's just a harbinger of things to come when it's there are probably some security concerns. These are very powerful models. They can potentially be used to hack into, companies and maybe even government. However, uh, there are also ways to prevent that. The Fable 5 was like a public release model that had a lot of safeguards to prevent that. Mythos is Anthropic's model that can be used for, cybersecurity. And they never released that to the public. It was only released to, partner companies that were approved by Anthropic. And so, that's understandable. But when you have, a very powerful general model that could be transformative and it has safeguards on it, and you're not allowing it to be released to the public, that just creates a two-tier system. And when, so much of our economy is increasingly becoming dependent on AI, and companies are rethinking the way they do business. They're getting rid of people, firing people based on this technology. To not allow, just regular people to use this technology, I think is, it's going to be tough because with the internet, like, a lot of people could just like, start a business on the internet. Everyone has access to the internet. With this technology, you know, these technocrats are going to have access to even more of our data, more of our thoughts. They can, target people with advertisements and with social media.
Fake
It,
videos.
yeah,
Hmm.
it's going to get rough in the very near future.
Wow.
And while I think it's important to to take cybersecurity concerns seriously, there are other countries like China, for instance, who develop their own AI and they release open source models. And will they, if those models prove to be too powerful, will they ban us from using those models
Hmm.
and
Interesting.
keep, even those are free open source models, and so like DeepSeek, for instance, and so it's just like very troubling that one of the things that the Trump administration that at least we thought about them was that they would be kind of laissez-faire with AI technology. Like they wouldn't, really, they would, champion the US dominance in that arena and have us be innovators. And, the ban on Fable 5, in theory, is supposed to accomplish that. Like the ban is not for, to ban, Fable 5 from everyone. The ban was to ban it from uh, foreign, uh, people, like people that are not from this country. And so, but the effect of that essentially, and the administration knew this, is that no one could have Fable 5 because there was, Anthropic didn't have any way to verify, whether or not, the user is a US citizen. And
Right. Right.
even members of its own company, like who are, you know, from other countries and are not US citizens, even their own workers couldn't work on this thing now, which is kind of ridiculous. Um, so, it's very, I think it's going to, take our country is going to take a hit for this because you have, other countries that are not putting these restrictions on AI. And,
They're going to shoot ahead.
I'm telling you, it's like China's strategy, I think, is to just compete with, American companies like OpenAI or Anthropic and just, you know, release like free and open source models just to disrupt that economic advantage or that those companies have just to keep them honest. But if it comes to the fact that to the point where we're not allowed to use those models,
Right. Right.
then it's
Suddenly restricted.
it's going to be bad news for the population at large,
Wow.
because we need access to these models in order to adapt to the changing landscape of human work. Um, so I think it's going to be
Setback.
definitely the next few months are going to be telling in terms of the direction this country is going to take with respect to allowing AI to flourish in this country.
Wow. Not for nothing, because I know you're big on that too and everything as well. But like, how do I say this? This
AI
is
was the
the
biggest mistake we've made so far.
yeah. I mean, like in the end, we're that's what's going to happen. I think you're right.
Seconds.
Yeah.
First one was the bomb.
I can see why you'd say that, but like this model that they're restricting to the public now. Normally, like every year or so when companies release the next year's version, it's usually like an updated version of what you already have. So is this going to bring a lot of new features that what you currently have won't have right now? Or is this
So
just enhancements? You know what I mean?
so Fable 5, which is Anthropic's model that they effectively banned, was, leaps and bounds ahead of, like, it was in a new class because, they had their Sonnet models and they had their Opus model. And now this was like an entirely new model. They'll probably go to Opus. They have Opus 4.8 now. They had Opus 4.7, 4.8. They'll probably have 4.9 at some point.
Okay.
Fable 5 and Mythos, which is the non-public version of it, those models are in a different tier, a different class of model. And the difference between it is like that model does not give up. You can give it a task, give it a goal, and it will just figure it out.
No kidding.
And there's very few things that it can't figure out, how to do without you
correcting it or editing it.
right. So like, with Opus now, a lot of times like you'll give it a task and it'll be like, oh, this is too hard, I can't do it. Or it'll
No
like do it in
kidding.
little steps and you have to like kind of drag it along. With Fable 5,
I
you're
didn't
just
know
like,
it
do
even did that.
this. And as long as you have like you give it a goal that is, within reason. You can't be like, um, you know, get me 100 hamburgers delivered to my house in 10 minutes. I mean, I guess it could like
Try.
order stuff in
Yeah.
your account or whatever, but like within reason. Um, I think that, so with that, and we haven't seen ChatGPT 5.6 yet, so we haven't really been able to test its capabilities, but it's supposed to be very of a similar caliber, we'll say. Um, Now, is it? I think 5.7 was supposed to be a step higher than that and even better than Fable 5, perhaps. 5.6 is maybe somewhere comparable to that. But, we just don't know now because
Not
that
coming.
model was never
Yeah.
released to the public.
Oh boy. That's
There were some leaks in terms of people who have tested it, but other than that, we don't really know.
Yeah, not much more is said. Well, that's that I could see that being. I mean, it's funny because I was gonna
And
say at first it's setback, but at the same time, like Mark was saying not too long ago, I'm not saying it's a good thing, but I'm saying this could be the beginning of the end anyway. So you know what I mean. So maybe he's onto
I mean,
something with that. You
I
know what I
mean,
mean?
you got to look at it from the perspective of what Rook's talking about. It's like the workforce is going to move forward with this regardless of how we feel.
That's
So
true.
my point with the AI where I'm against it is because it's going to take jobs from humans,
Oh yeah.
going to simplify things for owners, and it's going to make them a shit ton of money while pretty much destroying an actual workforce. Um, I mean, and the uncanny valley, the point at which the artificial begins to look like the real. We're
Mm,
getting to a point where AI videos are right there. You have to really kind of look, and then you'll notice something like, all right, no, that's AI. But
yeah.
it's
Right.
getting to that
Right.
point where you won't be able to.
That's yeah.
Now,
To me, it's getting harder and harder the further we go on. That's a good point.
now, let's think really fast. Nightmare scenario, right? Trump has a heart attack and dies. It's a scenario. It's fake. It's not happening. But let's play with it. They decide, oh, we're going to make an AI version of him, and that's going to run the country. So, I mean, if anyone's
They're
seen V
crazy
for
enough to do
Vendetta,
it.
will he be just as annoying and ridiculous?
I mean, you can program that out of him, but you kind of have to program that into him. Otherwise, people catch on like, wait a minute, Trump's not being very Trumpy. What's going on here?
Right?
Why
Might find
hasn't
out
been
Yeah.
the
president? And why
AI
hasn't been
version's
president
better.
for the last 20 years?
Like I don't know if that's gonna happen anytime soon,
Well, no,
but
but like I said, that's a nightmare scenario that's very feasible. You know, the
Well, you could
robot
say that about
takeover,
anybody
the
too.
zombie apocalypse. Hell, even a fucking asteroid hitting this planet is not as feasible as AI fucking taking over a government because the shadow police want that to happen.
Yeah.
We've already have a blanket over the cover, or over the. We already have the wool over the eyes of the American public, where they don't know what's happening behind the scenes in America. They just know what the internet news tells us, and that's already purchased and paid for by Trump and his cronies. So
Yeah.
we watch things that like oh hey, that's what they want us to see. What's really happening in the world?
Right? This is the
right.
distraction.
Yeah, but
Well, yeah,
AI does have good properties too.
Yeah,
And I
of
will
course.
admit that it's going to become a tool to make creativity faster, but at the same time, it's going to demean not the quality so much, but as the genuine, gen, genuinity, the genuine factor of the art is going to be lost.
Yeah, I
Because,
feel like creativity is going to go out the
yeah,
window
it's going to
too.
go out the window because
Yeah, because no one's going to think for themselves anymore.
exactly they're going to
Yeah,
have AI
the
doing all that
computer's
for
going to
them.
do it.
I mean, granted,
Yeah.
it's a lot faster. It gets the job done quicker,
Yeah.
and it results are fucking pretty damn good.
And like you were saying, even with that, is you realize there's probably plenty of college and even high school kids now that are having this type up their term papers. So they're not even thinking about that now. The computer is. You see
Yeah,
what
but
I'm saying?
they're also catching on. Teachers are catching on using AI to catch the kids using AI,
That's true.
and it's
Yeah.
working. Not all the time, but it's working.
Yeah.
But at the same
But if you
time,
were
you
to
see,
paraphrase it, I don't know if they'd be able to tell
it's
the difference then. Like, say you had it write you something and then you rewrote that writing, would it be able to tell the difference? I don't know.
that's a
well,
good question.
one of the tricks is to translate it into a different language and then have it written back into English.
No
That
Yeah,
kidding, really?
then you're gonna have
And
to
that
edit the
works?
shit out of it just to make sure it fucking sounds right.
I would have never thought that. Wow, that's crazy.
but I would
No, but
say
they're right.
I would say that I think that yes, it is disruptive. We've had disruptive technology before, but this is potentially the most disruptive
Yes,
technology to, ever exist.
Yep.
but it is
Um,
absolutely necessary to advance our species to the next level.
Right. We shouldn't fall behind or neglect it at the
right.
same
Well,
sense.
I'm not talking about
Yeah.
like our country in general versus everybody else. Even though
Like
that's going to
if
blow up in our face too.
first of all, like if these companies don't do it, if our country doesn't do it,
They're gonna.
other countries
Oh
are
Yeah.
yeah,
going to. And
absolutely.
we don't want, like, we've enjoyed sort of this unique supremacy over the globe because of our financial and military power. But what happens when, the economics shift toward AI and, you know, well, there goes, our economic superiority. And with that, there goes our military superiority because we can't, fund it as well. I mean,
Right.
I guess we can take on, endless debt as we already do.
Right.
But at some point, that's not going to work. If they have superior AI, they could disrupt our military technology. So like it's very important, at least from an American perspective, for
Yeah, tolerance.
America to stay ahead in the AI game.
No,
Of
I don't.
course. Yeah. It's
I
a
don't
Um,
race.
disagree at all. I don't
Yeah, it's a
disagree at
race.
all. But I'm talking about as a species, we're going to need
right.
to get to the next level. I mean, I forget who said this years ago that we are rapidly approaching a singularity where computers and technology will surpass human abilities to the point that we will have to incorporate those into our own being in order to survive.
Hmm.
So while
That's the way they would want it.
AI is just the foundation that we're going to lay for this. It's going to get to the point we're going to start having wetware, fucking electronics and computers in our own body to control heart rate,
So like cyberpunk
generation.
thing, like
It's
No,
gonna
like
not mnemonic all over.
let me posit why I think this is these things are getting banned and restricted. So the company that kind of snitched on uh Anthropic's Fable 5 was Amazon.
no kidding.
Amazon said, "Oh, we were able to jailbreak Fable 5, so maybe it shouldn't be out in the public like that."
Huh.
Now, Anthropic disputes this. They said that, it wasn't really a jailbreak. It was, something very minor and a vulnerability of all the current AI models. It was nothing special about Fable 5. But, disregarding that, um, there were, so like Fable 5 is has the potential to be very disruptive. What if you were to ask Fable 5, I don't like Amazon. Give me a plan or a strategy to, you know, replace Amazon or to combat Amazon or to, um, you know, compete with Amazon. Give me a strategy to, um, you know, sort of circumvent their business model. Like, and
Undercut them.
if you give it that goal, like who knows what it would come up with because
Right.
it will go and it will research and it will search the internet. It will
Find everything it
use
can.
yeah it more than any human can. It can consider like multi billions of like data points and like at once, and it there's a like who knows if it can figure it out or not, but those types of disruptive things can more easily be created by anyone, and that's what they don't want.
Right.
But
Right.
That's
here's the
what they don't
problem with
want.
that. Here's the problem with that. That's free and fair trade, baby. If you could do that yourself without the
Right.
AI,
and
it's
and that's what
just
they
a
don't
business
want.
model.
That's what they don't want.
Yeah, they don't want
they
people
don't
using
they
it to
don't
get
want people
better
to
themselves.
compete with them before
They get their hands
they
on it
have
first.
control over it,
Yeah.
right?
So they
So
give us
like,
some fear model that goes, I don't know how to do that.
yeah, you're like,
Right.
come on, you have to keep dragging me along to do these things. No, like they want to be able to have access to these things for themselves to give them a massive head start
That's got to be
over everything. That like I'm telling you, like, you talk about a, dictatorship and whatever. The dictatorship that is forming is, a technocracy, a government where, people who are vastly wealthy and in control of our technology, basically run our government. That
Yeah.
was the thing that uh, Vivek Ramaswamy, talked about in terms of his, disillusionment with the Trump administration and why he didn't join Doge. Like, like Vivek Ramaswamy, for all of his faults, I don't like the guy, but he was being, I think, very honest with how he saw, getting rid of the regulatory state. He said that he wanted to do it through law and constitutionally. And he said that the Trump administration decided to take a different route and wanted to do it through technology. I think that this is what he may have been hinting at. Like, you know, having these very powerful models in the hands of very few companies. And I'm willing to bet that the companies that are getting access to these very powerful models are the same ones who sat behind Trump at his inauguration
Yep.
and who paid for his inauguration.
I believe it too.
I'm
That's what I
willing
would-
to bet they're the
Yep.
very same companies that
That sounds
still have
right.
access to these
Yep.
models.
That 100% sounds about right too.
Yep, I
You know
agree.
what I mean?
You saw Mark Zuckerberg, you saw
Bezos.
Jeff Bezos,
Yep. Musk.
obviously Elon Musk.
Yeah.
You know, even the OpenAI's what is his name?
I forget that guy's name, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. But yeah, like, they were all there kissing the ring.
Right in the
and,
basically bowing down.
Right. And I'm willing to bet those are the companies that are going to, well, obviously OpenAI, but they're going to have access. And, Anthropic is, kind of at a difficult point because they didn't kiss the ring in terms of, freely giving their technology to the Department of Defense. So a few months ago, they got into a little tiff with the Department of Defense because they were using Claude, Anthropic's Claude models at the Department of Defense. But one of the stipulations that Anthropic had for the use of Claude is, number one, don't use it to spy on citizens.
Yep.
And number two, don't use it for autonomous warfare. So
Possibly
one of
too
the
late. But go on.
but one of the things that it can do is say, a military general could say, come up with a kill list for, this military operation, and the AI will look at everything
And
look on
devise
the
a whole plan.
battlefield in real time and say, okay, here's your kill list, go right ahead.
And this is how you do it. Yeah.
Now, I don't know, if this happened or not, but one of the, if you remember at the beginning of the Iran war, which, by the way, is still ongoing,
Right.
even though it was supposed to have stopped and we're supposed to have a ceasefire, that's gone now. So at the beginning of the Iran war, a girls' school in Iran was blown up. And that obviously was due to some, intelligence failure. You don't really target a civilian girls' school.
Right.
Whether that was AI had anything to do with that target selection, who knows? But just imagine if that were the case, if it, made a mistake to, say, hey, target, this building, and, for whatever reason, it was wrong. That is, that is a huge, has moral implications, because then the US can say, oh, well, we didn't really make the decision, that AI made it for us, so we're just not liable for it, we're not responsible for it,
even though you kind of
even though
are,
obviously these decisions have a great toll on the people making them, if they have morals, if they have some sort of integrity.
Do you guys remember years back, there was kind of questionnaire or test where it would ask you questions like, oh, hey, there's a car coming down the road. It's either going to swerve out of the lane and hit a car full of nuns, or it's going to go straight and hit an old lady crossing the street. And you got to choose which way would be better.
Right.
And I think that was building kind of an AI, but what should the computer do in this situation? Should I kill 3 people or kill 4 people?
Well, the AI will, if asked to make that decision, it will come up with the answer and it will rationalize it. And if
No, but
that's
that's what this sounds like.
if that's autonomously relied on, then, people will just say, oh, well, the AI made the decision. And, that's the kind of thing that like Vivek Ramaswamy is kind of,
Yeah.
not on board with. Like, he's
Right.
on board with, like, let me change this. I mean, let me correct that. This is the what people like Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk are on board with. They want, um, the technologically wealthy and powerful to make decisions. They just disagreed about how to go about it. Vivek Ramaswamy wanted to do it the legal way, the constitutional way, through changing laws,
That's surprising to hear, but go
to
on.
moving Congress. Whereas the Elon Musk way, and the way that ultimately was adopted by the Trump White House, was to use technology to do it.
Interesting.
That's what go look it up. That's what Vivek Ramaswamy said.
Right.
And
I find it
so,
interesting. He said that of all
like,
people.
he said, like, he couldn't really say anything more about it.
Yeah, he might get fired. But
Well, I mean, he's not gonna just, like, spill,
the
their whole
beans.
plan.
Yeah.
But, you know, he said that, it's, gonna be scary for people. And, he disagreed with that method of doing it.
Wow.
But he does think that, the rich and powerful technocrats should be in charge of government rather than government bureaucrats, rather than, but
That's why we
again,
never get anywhere.
these are people who have polluted our minds with social media,
Yep.
have fed us misinformation about things, on purpose, mind you.
Oh, of
Not
course.
because they want us to have misinformation, but they know that it makes people angry and keeps them engaged in
And
platforms.
it fits their narratives.
And, well, like, all they care about is making more money.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it's like I've said before on the show, it's not about greed necessarily. It's about self-preservation. If they don't do it, someone else will.
Someone else will. Right.
That is the fatal flaw of capitalism.
Yep.
I'm a capitalist, but I believe in regulated capitalism.
Right.
I believe that the government should step in and regulate and make sure that abuses of of people with great wealth do not occur.
Right.
And in a democracy, it's up to the people to keep themselves informed and to vote in people that will enforce these principles against those wealthy and those powerful people. And right now, we have a government that will not do that.
No, of
They're
course not.
essentially in bed with them.
It's more or less an oligarchy. It really is.
Well, it's worse than an
Yeah,
oligarchy,
actually worse.
but an oligarch is someone that just, like, is very rich and owns an industry. But this is an industry that potentially owns the minds of people, or has vast influence over it. They this is, like, rudimentary, but, like, going back to, like, early internet technology, and it's still used today, like, oh, we're gonna install a cookie. Like,
Yeah, no.
could you imagine, like, this is essentially what they do. Like, could you imagine, like, a company, like, sending someone to follow you everywhere you go? Like, oh, you're buying this, let me write it down.
Basically,
Oh, you're
you searched
spending
for
money
that.
on this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
you're
went
looking for
here.
this. Like, and someone's just behind you all the time writing, oh, well, yeah, like, this is what this person's doing. And then they use that to not only to advertise things to you, but to send you things that make you angry, and that make you, or that make you happy, but more so things that make you angry,
or upset.
or upset, and will engage with the platform longer, so they could continue to make money off of your data.
Yep.
So that's the thing that American people need to realize, that, people globally need to realize. And hopefully that'll take place, before it's too late.
Yeah. Yeah.
So really quickly,
there real quick.
my phone. I already think they're doing this with the phones, because I remember I was in a store recently. We were a specific area of the store, and I was typing in something to kind of research what we were looking at. I got 2 letters in, and immediately it popped up what I wanted. And I don't research whatever this was ever.
No kidding.
So I looked at it, I said, this motherfucker knows where I am in the store. So it's to
That's
that
weird.
point. Yeah, it's to that point
That's
where
what I'm saying. Even with all this new ChatGPT and all that stuff, if you think it's bad now, when that comes out, it's going to get a lot worse. Because put it this way, like right now, if you would have just said, like, hold your phone,
Yeah,
and if you said the word Captain Morgan like 3 or 4 times and then went on social media, I would be willing to bet one of your ads that's going to pop up as you're scrolling is going to be Captain Morgan.
Yep.
Those
'Cause it hurt
companies
you.
are those
Yeah.
companies are going to be asking Fable 5 and Mythos how to get you to buy even more stuff, how to, infiltrate your life and gather even more data. They're going to use those models against us to the fullest extent.
Oh, 100%.
I'm going to have a money argument, which I know is something on this podcast that's very sensitive, because we get into a shouting match. The margin between places wanting us to buy stuff and us actually having the money to buy stuff is shrinking year after year, to the point that we don't have that money no more. So you advertising to me that you want me to buy more of your shit that I don't need? I'm sorry, I don't have that. You got to go up to the next class of fucking people who have the money to burn. They have that extra cash lying around, and even that pool is getting smaller.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's getting to the point where those who have money are gonna have to start getting rid of it in droves, because it's not coming to us. So how are we gonna buy shit if it's not coming to us?
Shows you how
if the money
broken the
doesn't come
system is.
down, it doesn't come back up.
No, that's absolutely true. However, the way that capitalism works is that they can't really afford to care. What they're going to do is say, okay, well, we'll just sell to people who can buy it. That's why when things are, we have inflation, they don't care. They're not going to lower the price just so more people can buy it. They're just going to sell it to the people that can buy it for as much as they can.
I understand. I know that's how the economy works in this country, and and for good reason, because it's fair trade. It's got you can open your own business and do your own thing, but it's getting to the point that the richest percentage of the people in this country have, I don't want to say a controlling amount of the money, but I mean they could buy people from the government. They could buy islands. Yep. There's a huge I mean, granted, they earned that money. We can't just take it from them. But I'm saying this, maybe pricing's too high. There is definitely
tariffs aren't helping.
Right. That's why I mentioned that it should, like, capitalism is good, but it should be regulated. It should be regulated so that there are not abuses, and there are not, like, there are massive inefficiencies that occur in capitalism because everyone is acting in their self-interest in isolation. And that leads to making decisions that are, in the short term, maybe good for themselves or for their companies, but in the aggregate are harmful to society. And over the long term could lead to the downfall of the country or, the world economy. We saw that with the economic collapse in 2008. Each one of these actors, we had to bail
everybody out with the friggin' our money.
Right, but each one of these actors was acting within their own self-interest. Nothing wrong with that in isolation, It's natural to, want to keep your job as CEO of a company and, pursue, the most profit, in any way possible. I mean, you have to do so legally, and
Right.
laws need
Well,
to be enforced, and some of that didn't take place. But for the most part, like even if everything's above board and legal, they're going to make decisions that in the aggregate could harm society. And so that's why you need a government that is able to step in and say, hey, we have to think about, the big picture, not just your company, not just your job, but, the society as a whole. And that I think is lacking in our country and in our capitalist society. We're going to have to find our way back to that, or we're going to see, sort of that's why they call it end stage capitalism, because it's not sustainable. And,
Yeah.
there's nothing that any one of these companies can do individually, because they're locked into the system where they have to pursue this. Otherwise, other companies are going to do it, and they're going to be out of a job because their shareholders are going to be like, oh, you're not making me money, so why would I invest in this company? When other companies are like, hey, we'll do this and make more profit, like, and have more growth. So I don't blame these CEOs individually, I don't blame these companies individually, but what I do blame, us collectively as citizens for not, putting in place a government that looks out for society as a whole.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. The fact that we're on the bullet train to hell has nothing to do with the fact that getting on the bullet train was good for us. But now it's escalating to a point where it's going to be very bad for us. Now, I think the biggest factor in this is the human factor. The fact that you can't trust someone to do their job properly without putting their interests before the interests of everybody. Because, like you said, most people are looking out for themselves before everybody else because it's their job on the line. I'm not gonna get myself fired because I want to give everybody a $2 raise because they deserve it.
Right.
So that's where we are.
If it's not in your
best
interest as a CEO of a company to give people raises when other companies aren't doing it, when other companies are not doing it, so they're making in theory more profit from their endeavors. So then that means that shareholders will say, hey, we're going to go invest our money over here, where, like, if you invest $100 and the company only makes you $20 and the company over there is making you $40, where are you going to put your money?
Makes
as an investor
there. Yeah.
Obviously you're going to choose the one that makes you $40. And so when it's the problem is that we have companies that are in control of everything now. It's not just like we were worried about vertical, like, integration, like, where a company owns, like, every stage of production. But now we have companies that are engaged, like Standard Oil, for instance, is the monopoly on oil, is, vertical integration of the whole pipeline, control the market. But now you have companies that are horizontally integrating and owning everything. Like Amazon owns web services. It owns, like, every fucking product that you buy. It owns AI. Basically. It owns this. It owns that.
I saw a video of somebody in either the House or Congress interviewing a bunch of, I guess, people in the medical industry, and they asked pointed questions. Who here owns an insurance company? Who here owns a doctor's firm? Who here owns a medical? And most of them raise their hands. So these people own the drugs, the doctors, the pharmacy that okays the drugs, and, like, all that shit. Yep. So it's like you said,
right. But that's just vertical integration. Yeah. Horizontal integration is like, why does Disney need to own like everything? Why does
Amazon need to own
Money.
it.
Amazon need to own everything? Why does Elon Musk, why does he need to own SpaceX and
Because they have to spend their money on
Twitter
something.
and like Tesla, and like he's owning like, you know, all these like major companies, and you know, that
Blowjob.
like that is, you know, dangerous in a
Agreed.
capitalist society
Mhm.
when one company or very few companies like own like everything. It reduces choice, it increases prices, and ultimately it leaves like people who are in charge of those companies with way too much influence.
Yep.
And you know, it stifles innovation. You know, like Elon just bought Cursor, which is a uh, integrated development environment that is mainly used in AI. So now he has his own. He already had his own AI company, and he had SpaceX buy it. And
Yeah,
then now
100.
he's buying, you know, another like, you know, AI company that was like up and coming, and now that's subsumed into, you know, his company. And so like, you know, we're just having a crisis where, you know, people who are, you know, very few people are owning like all of these major companies in like every major industry, especially in technology. And so that I think is dangerous because, you
Greed is
know,
going to destroy the world.
That's
you know,
the
if you,
reality. I was just going to try to get in here. That's the reality I wanted to bring up because that's what's going to kill everybody in the end. Because here's the thing: at what point, though? Sure, the shareholders wouldn't invest in,
Yeah,
certain
the whole
businesses,
system is
but
meant to push forward, but there's only
yeah,
so
but
much
like,
bridge
at what
before
point?
you run off.
Once you're like for example, 0 to 1 million is not the same as a difference from 1 million to 1 billion, let alone 1 billion to 1 trillion. You see what
Yeah,
I'm saying? So, like, if you're in the margin of billionaire, you are already probably about 7 lifetimes set, if not more than that.
oh
So
yeah.
maybe your company shouldn't be worth $1 billion. Maybe it should only be like 850 million, so
well,
you
I
can
mean,
pay
there's a
your
difference
employees a
between
livable wage.
no, well,
If
there's a
they're
difference
working 40
between a
hours a week,
company. There's a difference between a company worth $1 billion and a person worth
right,
$1 billion.
but the person that owns the company is the billionaire. So like if your company
Right,
is
but
raking in $1 billion and your
right, but that's
employees can't
different.
even
That's
afford a
different.
doctor's visit, don't you
Well,
think there's something a little
hold on.
wrong there?
Well, no, because a company that's worth $1 billion isn't really
Make a
worth
billion.
that much. Like, you know, you have to pay employees, you have to pay for facilities, you have to pay for all of these things. That's different than, you know, a CEO of a company that like gets paid in the millions
Well, that's right.
probably.
Here's the
And
thing. The problem there is they get paid X amount of money as a salary, which is fine because they all get paid three
they also get paid in stock
Right.
a
stock,
lot of
and they also get
times.
paid in bonuses.
And
Now,
also
here's the
tax
problem with
cuts
that,
too from the
because
rich.
those bonuses should not be going to them, or at least not as much as they're going to them.
Yeah, some of it
I
could, I
feel like there
guess,
should
but
be
not all of it. Yeah.
there needs to be a certain point where it's just like, okay, we've made enough for the investors, we're in the black on them, so I mean, it's never going to happen. But I
No,
feel like
never. Not in this
there should
country.
be
No, because the
a
investors are going to
limit.
be like, all right, we'll
Yeah.
take our money elsewhere. Like I
But no, but
said,
I'm
like,
saying that there should be a limit in any of the trading going on anywhere to say, like, okay, this company made X amount plus that, which satisfies your investing in the company, but now the rest of that money is going back into the business to, give the workers a raise.
Maybe healthcare, you know?
Well, that's a different story entirely. Let's not touch that. Let's just get the workers more pay. Let's update, our our trucks, our buildings, our plumbing, our heating, whatever. Let's update the systems and everything. Let's put the money back into the company where it should go.
right, but what if it doesn't need to go in the company? What if the company's doing just fine?
The
It
employees are
always
Except,
part of the
you know,
company,
always needs to go into the
but the
company. That's
employees
the
are part of
problem.
the company.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's
Right,
the big
but
thing
Without
that
the
they look
employees,
over.
there is no company.
But the thing with corporations is that, the corporations are owned by shareholders. Those are the true owners of the company. The CEO is just
once they go
is
public,
just an employee of the company. And if the
true.
CEO
And that's
isn't
done by a
doing his
board and
job
everything.
to
That I get.
maximize shareholder profit, he's done. Like
But
that
yeah,
is
right.
a mandate of being, a CEO.
Sounds like something's
And
wrong with the
that's
system.
I get that.
I mean, I wouldn't say there's something wrong with the system, but I think there's something wrong with the way that it's regulated. It needs to be regulated in a way that ensures that these micro decisions at the companies don't impact society in the aggregate in a harmful way.
I don't know. Agree to disagree.
I'm
I
with
believe
you.
that despite the fact that some companies make truckloads of money, most of these companies do not invest it into their own company like they should.
Yeah,
And
they pocket
because
it
of
all for
that,
themselves.
society suffers because people aren't making the money they should.
Right.
Even when
Right, but when you spend money,
working for a company
as a
you can't spend your
CEO,
money at.
right, as a CEO, when you spend money at a company, the shareholders are going to look at your annual reports
I
and
know,
see, okay,
problem
what are
is
you
these
spending money
have
on?
shareholders.
Is that bringing us a return?
Yeah,
If it's not bringing us a return, we're out.
well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying yes. Get it to the point if a company brings back a return, great, but there should be a cap on that. Once
There's
the
no
cap
cap
is
on
reached,
capitalism. That's the problem. There's no cap on capitalism.
there's no cap in
There's
capitalism.
a minimum, of course, but there's no cap on
cup
capitalism.
will overfloweth, and we will all be screwed.
Yeah, I hate to say,
Right, but then
the
what's the point of running the company if it can't grow and make profit for shareholders?
no one's
Because
against making
sometimes the
profit for
company gets too
shareholders,
big for
but
its britches.
I just feel like
I
the
mean,
employees should be able to at least survive, don't you think? You know what I mean? Like healthcare,
Of
or
course.
It's like I just said.
but that's not a thing. That's
If
not a thing
you're-
in this country.
If you're a person that works for a company and you can't afford the stuff the company offers,
That's a problem.
that's a problem.
For real. Like, are you
If you're
sure?
working-
I wouldn't say that categorically. I wouldn't say that. Like, should like people who work at Lamborghini manufacturers all have a Lamborghini?
Well, you'd think they get some kind of like discount, right?
Well, all right.
But
All right,
should
hold on.
should they get enough money to be able to afford a Lamborghini?
Well, I guess it
mean,
would help them
based
with
on-
sales. It would help them with
Exactly.
sales.
Based on the sales
be
of the
more
vehicle and
Lamborghinis
the
on the
thing.
road.
Yeah, they should.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Actually, I
yeah,
think
you're gonna
make
pay.
enough
You're
money,
gonna pay.
not
You're gonna
necessarily
pay
to
every
buy
worker. You're gonna pay every worker enough
not
for them
every
to buy a
worker, but
Lamborghini.
you got to be there X
Not
amount
every
of
worker,
years.
No. I didn't say buy. I didn't say buy. Maintain.
Yeah, or lease or whatever. Yeah.
No. Maintain.
What do you
If
mean
you already
maintain?
own the vehicle, you should make enough money to be able to maintain the vehicle and still live. Granted,
It's the company
expensive.
you work for. Why wouldn't it be? You would think, right? You're selling.
but no,
you're working
Right,
to
but
make them
okay,
a profit.
okay,
You
but
know what I mean?
like, who is going to invest in a company that pays all of their workers enough to buy a Lamborghini when,
Well, no one
I
said
mean,
all. Yeah, no one said all. Like, I would assume with something like that, because that's not a cheap car. I would assume you'd need to be there like X amount of years or something before maybe you'd get an entitlement. To
I mean,
like that.
it's not a good business proposition. At smaller companies like OpenAI, for instance, they pay like most of their employees like, outstanding salaries because they're a small company, but it has a large, profitable impact.
Yes, but it's not an openly traded company yet.
Yeah,
Not
there's a lot
yet,
of test
no.
subjects, which
And
is everybody.
that's the problem. Once a company goes open and is traded, it no longer cares about people.
Yeah, that's very true. It's out the window in that case.
No, well, I'm sure that, they'll continue to pay high wages because it's a very, they don't need that many people employed at the company, but the company will rake in a lot of revenue.
They'll rake in even more.
That's why they can pay a lot, because it's a very small amount of employees. Same with Amazon. Relative to the amount of business that Amazon does, they have relatively few employees.
See, you're trying to have your cake and eat it too. Because in this situation, if they're paying their employees that much, they should be able to continue to pay them once it gets open traded. But once it gets open traded, those investors do not give a shit of what you're paying your guys. I want my maximum output. Period. Put a CEO in there, cut all the fat off the company, bring in new people if you have to. That's what will happen.
Maybe that would be the case. That's what happens to companies when they run out of sales, when they run out of customers. Like Facebook, for instance, like it's harder and harder to get that next million people signed up for Facebook, because like most people who are going to sign up for Facebook already are. It's harder to, so then you look into other places in the world that haven't signed up. Like it gets harder and harder and harder to get more customers once you get that big as a company.
And their model, you would think it'd be easier because it's free.
And then so you have to start looking for efficiencies elsewhere. Otherwise, capital is going to flow out of that company to somewhere that's going to grow more. So they have companies like Facebook or Meta have to find efficiencies every quarter, every year. They have to find those efficiencies to keep growth going. Otherwise, the shareholders are going to be like, all right, well, that was a good run.
See, but
sell
that's
that and go somewhere else that's going to grow my money.
Once you rely on shareholders, you're on a train that will eventually end, and your company's doomed. Because
I wouldn't say that.
No,
like if you have a monopoly, not really.
I mean, if you have a monopoly, you're not even playing fair at that point.
Yeah, if you have a monopoly,
Facebook's not going anywhere, is it?
To set the prices.
Yeah. Amazon's not going anywhere.
Well, I'll tell you one thing.
That's because they bought the postal service.
I'll tell you one thing. With that
I mean, they are a postal service,
basically.
Pretty much. But that merger with Paramount and what was the other company? Remember, they were supposedly one was going to buy the other, was Paramount and something else. I don't think it happened yet, but I guarantee you this: if something like that did happen, do you think that the one company is going to keep both studios open? No. They're going to destroy one, just have the other, and then what's going to happen? Innovations down.
Acquisitions are expensive, so the company that buys the other company takes on a lot of debt, and once those companies get merged, you gotta find efficiencies.
But see,
you gotta,
like he was saying, it's gonna crash,
trim the fat so that the shareholders are pleased with that acquisition. Otherwise,
that's what I said.
Well, I mean, that's
why
the way
we can't
that
move forward.
That's the way that capitalism works. I mean,
if you
that's why this country's never going to be run correctly.
If you look at the system in the way we just described it all from end to end, when a company is smaller, they have the freedom to pay their employees whatever wages they want because they're not, subject to a board.
Not whatever they want. I mean, they have to.
No, they can pay them whatever they want.
Technically, they could, but
it'll break them if they do it crazily. But I understand what you're saying. They can't just give them $1 million.
Yeah, right.
They can pay them a better wage than normal. Once that company gets big enough and either is forced to go public or goes public, that's when the company is on a decline.
Your franchise is like.
Well, all right.
I wouldn't say it's on a decline.
It won't be on a decline right away. They'll have a bubble. They'll pop. Maybe they'll get more restaurants all over the country, if not the world.
Amazon's not popping.
Huh?
Amazon's not popping. Google's not popping. Lots of companies go public, don't pop.
Yeah, but they're monopolies. No, there's no competition for Amazon.
Yeah, that's
there's no real
competition
for Google.
There's competition in some sectors, but again, Google is one of those companies that owns everything. Companies that own everything can afford to lose in some situations and win in others.
They'll make it up elsewhere. Yeah.
That's arguably why they need to own a diverse thing. But at that point, they become more like municipalities. Like I said, Amazon's basically a postal service as well as everything else. It's a store.
That's when the government.
It's a postal service.
Like, okay.
It provides web services to companies. Like it does everything. Too much, in my opinion.
I agree. I agree with you there.
There needs to be a hostile takeover.
Like we said, there's no cap on capitalism. So who you going to stop them? You think the American government's going to stop them? No. They probably should, but don't expect it.
Right.
It's
And
never going to happen.
while it creates like really, really powerful companies that, you know, other countries don't necessarily have as many of, you know, the effect is like in the countries where, you know, the workers are, and not so good. Yeah, it provides some jobs, but they're able to scale things at a way that they need very few employees to do that. And AI is only going to accelerate that process where, you know, you can have very few employees but have a maximum economic influence and impact.
Bye-bye jobs, humans.
And okay, everyone, that's all we got for this week. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. New episodes are normally every Friday on YouTube. And thanks for watching. Peace.